Hey, what is up, everyone? It's Rich. Okay, this is the introduction on how to start inking a piece, sort of the thought process that goes into tackling any kind of sequential page, pinup, or cover. So the first thing I do, and I haven't inked at all today, so I'm starting completely cold, is I will generally pick something pretty easy on the page and something that wouldn't stand out if I don't get it exactly how I want it. You could definitely spend 5 or 10 minutes in the morning warming up before you start your workday. I generally don't. I ink pretty much 7 days a week, so I just don't need to. So this looks like a real safe area for me. It's like some nice detail in there, some fun kind of simple shapes, a little bit of rendering, and yeah. So here we go. So already some paper on the tip of the nib, a little fuzz. You don't want that. Okay. See, you get dirty fingers real fast inking traditionally. It's just part of the thing. So I'm going in. I'm starting to sculpt this arm. A lot of times with this type of stuff, what I'm doing is I'm creating like what I consider a safe zone. This is where I know it's going to be black, and I give myself just a little tiny bit of breathing room to create value in there, meaning more detail between where it's going to be jet black and then the line work. So pull this up a little bit so you can see it. Oh, and I wanted to mention too, right up front, I created a Patreon, which is a tip jar basically for this YouTube channel mainly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the funds from the tips that people give me, and I'm going to get better gear to record these videos. And if I can get enough money, then I can start, maybe skipping a day of work and focusing 100% on editing videos. Do you see what I'm saying? Is I can really make this a very professional, free experience on YouTube by having people support the channel just out of their generosity. Right now I've got, I think, close to 300 videos up here. So there's tons and tons of free information that I've put up. But yeah, if you could help out and, even kick down $1, it would be really, really cool. And we'll get this channel super killer. Okay, so we've got a few of these little things blocked out. So what I'm going to do is, these look real tempting to do with a brush. So I'm going to use, this is a Series 7 number 3 Winsor Newton brush. I'm going to start going in, I'm going to start feathering these pointy lines that are coming off of his ab muscles. I'm just getting a little ink on my brush here is what I'm doing on the side. And what I do is I have 2 introduction videos to brush inking and Hunt 102 inking that I'll have links in the description below. You definitely want to watch those. But what I did off panel is I dipped my pen or my brush into ink, and then I was sharpening it, and I show that technique in the introduction to brush inking video. So you definitely want to check that out if you haven't. I also have my supplies listed in the Wonder Woman video that I just put up, so I'll have a link to that also. And those are real good videos. If you're coming in cold and this is the first YouTube video that you've seen of mine, those will help. Okay, so I've got nice pointy lines there. Then this is a David Finch piece, by the way. I mentioned that in the previous video, but really nice pencils. This was a commission for someone named Octavio, and I was commissioned to ink it for the guy that bought it off of maybe Octavio, possibly. So what I'm doing, the thought process behind this little area right here is, remember, we're not just putting down lines, we're creating form. This is a 3-dimensional shape. If I start doing very, very straight lines as opposed to slightly curved lines, I'm not going to be indicating this big chunk of muscle that sits on Hulk's side. You see? If you could think of this as a 3-dimensional form, it goes like this. Like if you think of like a wireframe, it curves like this, and then it gets a little flatter. And as it comes underneath, it's starting to curve this way. And David indicates that with his pencils, but you want to make sure that you're playing that up in your ink line. So always be mindful of the form that you're putting down. These tapered lines, I'm going very, very light, and then as I move closer towards the black area, I'm pushing down. So as light as I can do, and then I push down a little heavier. As light as I can do, I push down a little heavier. As light as I can do, I push down a little heavier. Trying to keep the length of the lines pretty consistent to what David has down. If you flick lines, sometimes they'll get a little longer, but because I'm starting with a brush line, and I'm starting at the tip of his lines, I can match that up a little better. Okay. Let's see what we got going on here. Do this little thing right here. Looks fun. I'm not used to inking with my head this far away from the piece, so it's a little tricky for me to have my head like about 1.5 feet back from the board. I normally, I kind of crouch down on the page, like hunch over it, and I'm honestly probably about 4 to 6 inches away from the paper when I ink. So I'm sitting upright and I've got the camera in front of my eyes. It's a little tricky, but again, if I can get some new little shooting, you know, like camera equipment and stuff like that, I can start to set this up really, really cool. Maybe even shoot like a few angles. That would be so awesome. Then edit it. I really want to get to that point. So like I said, Patreon's going to get us there. These are just little tiny lines. And again, the advantage that I have of using the brush on these is I can really match up the exact height that David put in, which is very important to him. He wants that to match up. Okay, and you can go in with a brush. I mean, if you look at the Look What I Found video, I'll put a link for that too. It was when I realized that I actually still had this at my house. You can go in with a brush and block these things in. You don't have to outline them out of the gate. Again, because I was just warming up a little bit, I felt more comfortable maybe just being a little more cautious at first, which is fine. The thing is, you're building it up. I mean, it's as long as you don't go outside the lines, then you're safe to try things, and it'll be pretty forgiving. The only other thing that I would suggest when you do a piece is, it is a good idea to have a hard copy of the original pencils so that you can revert back to it. So before I get too much further, I actually am going to make a photocopy of this today and make sure I have it just so I can see everything. Because a lot of times when you do start putting down sets of lines, things start to get covered up, and it can be a little trickier to see exactly what sort of the original nuances were. Very, very thin lines here. Okay, so I hope that gives you a little idea of how to go in and start inking a piece. I try to find something that's fun, a little easy, a little forgiving, in case you aren't completely like zoned in. And oops, sorry, I just bumped the camera with my head. And again, thin to thick, light touch, and then I push down just slightly to get the brush to create just a little heavier line. And then he's got this okay, cool. I'm going to leave it at that for right now, but you get an idea of just kind of going in and starting to do some of the work. Okay? Smash that like button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I'll be back with more parts of this David Finch Hulk commission. And while we're at it, let's do this. Octavio, goodbye. But thank you for purchasing this original piece and selling it to the commissionee that wanted me to ink it. Okay, bye. Thank you.